Welcome to Mile High Reefers. I'm Scott Anderson, and it's time to do another tank update on the 210-gallon Reef. So if you remember a month or two ago, this tank had a kind of mild crash. I put about 60 gallons of fresh water in here by accident. Well, since then, we've been recovering. We've pulled a bunch of coral and done some rescaping. So things have really been recovering. So since then, I haven't done a lot of changes to the system. It's all been about recovery. So let's take a look at this tank and let's see how things are going. Overall, I think the tank is looking a lot better. We've got all of those big monies that were in the center taken out, and we've kind of replanted a bunch of new stuff, and I'm really excited to see how all of that grows in a big picture later on. But fish-wise, I think things are looking great. Every fish has been healthy, they've been happy, everything's gone really well. The only minor concern I've been seeing is a little bit of aggression between the powder brown and the blue tank. It's been minor, it hasn't happened a lot, but so far that little powder brown has been a model citizen. It might be that he's getting a little older, a little bigger, and starting to get a little more aggressive. So we're gonna have to watch that guy. That blue tang I've had for 9 years, we are never getting rid of that fish. That fish has a permanent home until he dies. So here's the section where I took the big Monties out and started to replant. And for the most part, things are looking pretty darn good. But we've got that green hydnophora up front, and that is a piece from the original colony. The big original one died. This is a frag that was downstairs in the basement. I know, right? That's a frag. And I put it back up here. It's doing fantastic. It's in the same spot. I love that neon green hydnophora. This stuff is so underrated. The grandis I've moved up here to the right, and it's doing fantastic. My giant Monty cap, that's about all that's left of it. It's still been stripping a little bit recently. I hope it stopped. I have a little tiny bit of this coral left. I loved the huge colony that it used to be, and I really want it back. Spongoda above it, it's doing really well. To the left of what we were just looking at, I've got these shelves that were originally made out of this Atlantis pink tip growing out. You can still see we got Atlantis pink tip on the front. These days, I just trim it off to kind of keep the shelf look the way I want it, but as it got shaded out by other stuff, it died off and kept growing this way, which created this shelf look, which is really cool. And it's given me some great coral placements. And I've got a lot of fun, cool coral up here. We've got a bunch of different monies. We've got Setosa. We've got Crystal Experiment and Manila Sky back there. We got a nice Digi here. Got a couple softies mixed in. We got some pallies over there, and we got some pipe organ up here. But it's also become a great place for me to put some of my Favias. I love Favias. They need a highlight spot for them. They're doing really well. And of course, in back, we've got more monies and other fun stuff. In this section, it didn't really get affected too much by the last changes I did. Just took out some big colonies, put more frags in, and it looks so good. Tank, I find that basically you let things grow until the point where you have to strip it and do it over. And that's really where we're at in the middle section of this tank. And it's gonna take a little while before it looks as good as the rest, but right now we're kind of showing you the worst first. And it's fun having this open because every day I've got new growth, new things happening, and I got room for new coral, which I haven't had in a while. If you follow this channel, you know I love my leathers, and these guys are getting insane. But given the state of the tank, I don't want to frag stuff, stress stuff, so it's just growing to unfathomable sizes. I mean, look at my hand compared to that leather. It's insane. The devil's hand next to it. But what's cool is they're actually growing together really well. My clam's doing well with them. It really looks like a reef. We've got this Aussie devil hand up here. It's doing fantastic. Like everything's just growing so great together. The big leather on top that I fragged, it's really doing well. The Singularia is getting overgrown, but that's okay. We can move that guy. And then we've got our kaleidoscope back there. It hasn't gotten happy since the move, but it's open and it's doing something. We'll have to kind of manage him later on. Kind of hid away on this side is Japanese pink Nephthya in the back. Nice green gunny. Both of these corals are doing fantastic. You will see that I am battling a little bit of hair algae. This is from the problems I've had. But considering everything I went through, this little bit of hair algae really isn't bad. I've had explosive algae growth in the past. If you remember a couple weeks ago, we cut the big green bubble and it's still struggling. Part of the reason we cut it is those polyps behind it that I cut off were struggling, and honestly, it was a big risk. And now I'm getting a little tissue recession right here, and on the other side, I'm even kind of seeing some of the spines. Like, it's scary. But we'll talk about how much these corals can rejuvenate. It's open, it looks pretty healthy. I think it's gonna be okay. But it's always worrisome to see a coral do that. On the left side of the tank, I've started creating this little bubble garden. So you've seen all of these bubbles before, but now they're big, open, full, and looking so good. This little guy here on the bottom left, the pearl bubble that looks kind of small, that's my rescue bubble. That's the one I saved. It has come back so much. It's doing so good. This green one has been so healthy. This is that little tiny guy, but he just blows up. He does so good. This is part of my big green one. It's got a little bit of tissue recession in the center. That's why I cut these off. It's all about trying to do the right thing for the coral. Sometimes we really don't know what the right thing is, and we just have to guess. So this one and that one, this one and the top one, my finger's never in the right place on camera. It's right by my eye, but never with the camera. But these are the two I cut off. They're doing pretty good, but they both develop these little holes in back where the skeleton's pulling through. Super scary, but if a coral can go from dead to that in a few weeks, I have so little worry about those. They're gonna be fine. It's just gonna take some time. The biggest thing I hate about my acanthophilias is I just can't get the camera in here very well to film them. So we're off in an angle, might be a little out of focus or hard to see, but they are doing amazing. So they're both Indo. This is kind of your standard green and orange Indo. And this is the one I had 6 months ago that was bleaching out. You can see how much it's colored up and come back. The one next to it, this is that Indo one. Might even be Indophilia, not Acanthophilia. Its color's amazing. This thing feeds so awesome. I love and adore that coral. Absolutely one of my favorites in this tank. My big fox coral that I moved next to my Euphilia garden is doing amazing right here. So it has the right amount of light, right amount of flow, and it's doing so good. It's so fat, so healthy. It's just the right spot for it. I'm really happy with that. My frog spawn and hammer section is killing it. The change in flow, adding the sea swirl has made a huge difference. I'm really surprised that adding that surge in there has made such a difference to the health of these corals, but it has. Giving them a big surge and then a rest has really turned things around. Colors are looking good, they're getting fat, they're healthy. My gold wall's doing good, the gold frog spawn's doing good. These aren't quite as bright as they were, but they're so fat and happy and healthy, they look great. All the greens, everything that was shaded on the left side before I did some aquascape changes has brightened up and looked better. This section hasn't looked this good in a long time. And then even things like the Duncans that were struggling downstairs in the frag tank, they're just getting fatter and healthier and brighter. It's going great there. Worst hit by the algae is this little rock right here. Part of the problem is you can see even with the glass, this is real hard to get into work in. So I've got tight quarters, getting a scraper in here, so you can see even this morning when I was cleaning the glass, with the lights out, I missed some algae. But this is the one that got covered in algae. But the corals are doing pretty well right there. They look pretty darn good. Torches are doing great. The dragon soul I got from Jake is looking amazing. I love it. It's 2 solid heads now. It's doing great. The big fat green one on top, it just keeps getting bigger. The little neon green one that I broke when I took it off the frag plug thrived. It's fine, no problems with it. And the Aussie gold on the right keeps doing better. It's such an awesome coral. I can't wait till he's a big, fat, lovely colony. But even here, you'll see little pieces of algae showing through. It's just part of the battle I'm fighting right now. My little acro section on top needs more acros put in, but the ones that are there are doing pretty good. I just noticed that there's a digi that's fallen off the back, so I'll have to save it after this video. But everything is really doing great. The corals, they're just happy, they're healthy, and we got great polyp extension. Kind of all I ever asked for out of my acros. I'm not an acro guy, but I do like them. And I just like the way they grow, the way they look. They're cool. My big moon brain is looking so good. This placement, this look, this rounded brain, I love it. This is a hard coral to find, and I really don't know why. I bought this for my birthday like 6 or 7 years ago, and it's done great. And as it's grown up, the skeleton has kind of died off. It wants to be tall, not grown out. So I've started gluing blastos to it, and that's working great. Blastos, they grow slow. So I might get more blastos to glue to that. It's a really cool look. And the little brains next to it are also doing pretty well, though you can see that algae. Like, I'm keeping it real here. I could not shoot a video and not show you the algae, but this is part of a recovery process. Part of recovering is enjoying the change in the tank, watching things grow, improve, and get better. My big sign arena has been opening up big and doing great, but as you can see today, my yellow wrasse, my chorus wrasse, decided to throw a bunch of rocks inside of him, so he's pulled in at this exact moment. But this coral's been doing great right here. The changes to the flow made all the difference. Now next to it, it's a little on the bleachy side, but that's how I bought it. It hasn't really gotten any darker. It's just staying like this, but it looks pretty healthy. So we're just gonna let it ride right here. It's opening up, looking good. It's doing pretty good. I think this is the right spot for it. His neighbor, which I'm not sure if it's Cynarina, Acanthophilia, or Endophilia. I'm kind of leaning towards Endophilia. This coral has been incredible. The coloration's awesome. It's been a great feeder. It gets big and fat and open. In fact, this coral just took a poop, and it's now just opened up this much in like the last 10 minutes. It's been so healthy, so dynamic. I am in love with this coral. That's why it's front and center in my tank. All in all, I think the tank's looking pretty darn good, all things considered. Well, I'm kind of at the point where the path forward is really just maintain good water quality and get this tank back to where it needs to be. The problems are minor, and I just really need to focus on the basics. Managing water quality, not really doing anything else equipment-wise or anything like that. Just let things stabilize, let the tank do its thing, get happy, be healthy. But honestly, all things considered, I think the tank looks pretty damn good. So, to see how this tank grows out, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, and come back for the next episode of Mile High Reef.